Excuse me, miss.
Yeah.
Can you take a second to tell us what's the worst thing that's ever happened to you?
This on film?
Yeah, this is something.
Is it going on YouTube?
Yeah.
Okay. The worst thing that's ever happened to me. Well, the other day, I ran across the room and I stubbed my toe on my printer while trying to get the last Oreo in the box. But, I don't know. So, is that good enough?
Yeah, it's pretty good. Thank you.
Okay, yep.
What's the worst thing that's ever happened to you?
I shaved off my eyebrows once.
Excuse me, miss. Can you take the time to tell us, miss? Miss, please? I was wondering if you could tell me about the worst thing that's ever happened to you.
Well, that's funny. I don't think I've ever been asked that question before. I'm not sure if I have something prepared, but yeah, let me see what I got.
Many times I've escaped trouble by the skin of my teeth. I avoided incidents with the law either by knowing what to say or being skilled enough not to be caught. Having a perfect record streak like this in your 20s starts to give you an overly inflated sense of invincibility. Completely untouchable, like Robert De Niro in Untouchables. You could get into 100 car crashes, brush yourself off, and carry on. Life was like a Warner Brothers cartoon. You could just reset yourself for the next episode with no foreseeable consequences. For the better part of my memory, I want to say I was getting out of a long-term relationship that one summer of 2009. I lived in the sleepy little one-horse town, maybe you've heard of it, isolated and tucked away behind Camp Pendleton, accessible by the 15. It was the friendly village, the avocado capital of the world, Fallbrook. Drive up to the highest point on Mission Street and you can see the entire span of the village, and you can smell the shit the agricultural portion needed to stay growing. For a young man in his 20s with no girlfriend, this place offered no distraction to my newly discovered planet of loneliness. The day-to-day in the boring town was fairly blurry, gray, and routine. Wake up, go to the gym, grub out at the local taco place, a recovery comatose-like sleep, go to class, go to my first job at the college bookstore, go to my guard job in the equally sleepy mountain town of Ramona. All very bland, styrofoam, rice cake style of life. Until one Thursday, my gym buddy told me about an event he was promoting at this club in the next city up on the 15, Temecula. He blew it up and invited everyone who was barely an acquaintance from Fallbrook. Being locked up in a rigid daily routine, any excuse to break free and adventure out is a good one, and I enthusiastically agreed. Had I known how the events of that night would have unfolded, I would have gladly given myself 36 months of a boring life in my apartment cell. Driving up and out of Fallbrook that night was dark and lonely. The approaching on-ramp was hauntingly quiet, with nothing but the woeful coyote cries echoing in the distance. The streets are a silvery blue, and the drive was only 4 short exits to the bar. Now, the bar had exchanged several management hands like a single pair of mittens between a group of hobos on a cold night. The line into the bar was visible from the parking lot and wrapped around the corner of the building. Reggaeton was playing as faintly as it did in my apartment building, which wasn't faint at all. It was clear, precise, and full of bass. I circumvented the line and found my friend at the entrance, and I greeted him with the customary fist bump. "What do you want to drink?" he yelled over the conversation-nullifying beat, walking me into the social chaos. "What's on special?" "Adios, motherfucker!" he replied in a way that only serves to hype up the subject spoken in that tone. "Fucking do it!" was my emphatic reply, throwing my hands in the air. "Drinks are on me, either way. Thanks for showing up," he yells, followed by a fist bump of gratitude. I get the nuclear hyper blue drink in my hand and I down that motherfucker. Now, because of the invite pool is pretty specific, the encounters are familiar faces. Some girls from the bookstore, the barista from the coffee shop, even the receptionist from the local chiropractor's office was there. The shy, anemic girl from the bookstore is there, her arms bruised from restocking countless buybacks and clumsily handled dollies. "Hey, Rohan, I didn't think I'd see you here." I chuckle. "Why do you say that?" Don't you open the store tomorrow for the delivery truck?" Mild panic. I've had a few of these toxic combinations of well liquors, but I could probably still sober up in time for work. I say my goodbyes and head back to my car. In retrospect, I should have just locked myself in the car and thrown the keys in the back seat. I should have slept it off and showed up the next morning in my club clothes and disheveled hangover look. 8 hours of awkward explanations would have been better than what was to follow me for the next 7 years. I put the keys to the ignition and started the car. I assessed myself and carefully pulled out of the parking lot. Cool as a cucumber, chilling in a minty fresh cucumber mojito, I make my way back onto the ramp to the 15. 3 easy exits and I'm home free. There's never police out in Fallbrook, and if I make 3 short exits, I'm free. I get in the slow lane and I coast. Passing the first exit, I reach over, rather confidently, to get a piece of gum from my center console. My driving hand shifts slightly. My car shifts slightly. And oddly, lights. Police lights. Shit. They direct me off to the second exit, to the Shell station. Then it's the whole spiel, just like you would expect. Have you been drinking? Step out of the car. Walk in a straight line. And of course, please blow into the breathalyzer. Perhaps it was the alcohol catching up to me, but the night continued in a haze. The blood alcohol test. Sitting in the drunk tank with no shirt, tie, belt, or shoes. In the morning, I had my one phone call to call my roommate, and he picked me up. Somehow, I made it to work only 15 minutes late. In the weeks to follow, I lost my cushy guard post in the peaceful town of Ramona, and given reduced hours guarding some shitty random site in Escondido. I almost lost my car and was behind on bills paying off court fees. I attended the court-appointed Al-Anon, but it just made me realize that the people there made some really terrible choices, and although I didn't hurt anyone, I could have as well. It was an eye-opener, and the night in the drunk tank made me realize that I wasn't a violent drunk like the rest of the people there. This was not my life. I had a lucky escape in some ways that night. Not luckier than avoiding the police, but luckier than avoiding a
And that
darker
was
fate.
the worst event that has ever happened to me. Yeah.
Wow, sir. That was incredibly powerful. Thank you for your time.